I'm going to talk a little about tuning your team in a simple way when you don't have an unkillable team to still reach Ultra Nightmare and be able to maybe 3-key it, still get through it, get that top chest. The rewards are so much better than other chests. I just want to mention, depending on how many people you use to go 4 to 3, which is what I'm talking about, I would definitely suggest going to the calculator on Deadwood Jedi's site and just plug your numbers in and make sure, because every time you use a different number of people, it changes the turn order. You want to know when they need to use their move so that they're always in cycle. It's always worth checking, but it is actually very simple. So let's just kind of go over it and hopefully help some people out who don't have those amazing unkillable teams. Hey guys, Fuse here, and I want to talk about the 4-3 ratio that you hear about so often. Might not even know what that is when you're tuning a clan boss team, but it can be so important in upping your damage. So everybody wants an unkillable team. It's the easiest way, something like the Batman team where it's just full auto click and you can just 1 or 2 key your Ultra Nightmare, 1 key Nightmare, 1 key Brutal, and get all of your chests. It really is. It's kind of, the golden ticket. It's what we're all looking for, but we don't all have unkillable teams or champions. On my mid-tier account, I actually do not have, I don't think, a single champion to put me unkillable, because I've got plenty of champions that will help me make one, but I don't actually have any of the unkillable buffs or the no damage buffs. So how do I beat Ultra Nightmare without, now I do have counterattack champions. I do have an ally attack champion. You're going to use everything you have at your disposal, but how do you get the most out of them? They still don't do, well, now granted, you could, if you have amazing champions, a regular composition can 1-key it easily. But if you don't have the books, like I have Brogni, I could do an amazing composition, but he still doesn't have books. I'm trying to book him, right? Look where they landed. Like, of course, they land in the worst place. So it's not always as easy as it sounds, right? Unless you're buying books, right? So how do I get a 3-key? I use the 4-3 ratio, and it's actually pretty simple. The team that I use, like I say, I do bring in, I have a counterattacker. I've got Skullcrusher. So I bring him in at a regular speed, 173. If on Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare, you want to stay between 170, you want to stay between 171 and 189, but to do anybody on a 4-3 ratio, in this case, I'm going to show you how to do 2 of them. You want to stay between 172 and 177 with your normal attackers. Really, really tight. And your counter attacker, once you want them to be your last champion, your slowest champion. So 173 is my slowest champion. Now, as far as for who I'm bringing in for DPS, before we get to my actual, I'm going to bring Rosin before we get to who's going 4-3 ratio. Rosin's here for one reason and one reason alone. He's going to be just a little bit faster, 175 between 172 and 177. He's here to bring weaken and defense down and hopefully do some good damage. Pretty basic there. Now, I do have an ally attack champion. Of course, I'm going to use him, right? Get some extra damage out of my team. I want you to real quick just note the horrible gear on these people. Defense, not crazy high. Attack, not crazy high. Kind of in the middle. But they'll last quite a bit. They're all in lifesteal gear. This is built like anybody else would do. Lifesteal gear. I'm not bringing in a leech. But his speed is also 176. Between 172 and 177. With Skullcrusher being the slowest. Now I have 2 other champions, but these 2, I want them to go an extra turn for every 3 turns of the clan boss, 4 to 3. The reason being, we'll talk about Sepulchre Sentinel. I bring her because first, she has an amazing aura. Everybody gets 25% of their base defense, making that smaller defense I have quite a bit higher. And then she has this move that increases defense by 60%. All of a sudden, that small 2400 defense isn't so bad with her aura and her increased defense buff. But more importantly, she has block debuffs. She's not the only person who could do this. She's just one of my favorites because her A1 also brings attack down pretty much everything you could want. And she even has a passive that can make somebody completely block damage sometimes. It's a 50% chance of just ignoring damage. So when that slam comes in, I don't take the stun because she's blocking buffs, debuffs, and they may not take any damage aside from the fact that they don't get stunned. So she's pretty amazing. But this is a 4-turn cooldown. A 4-turn cooldown won't speed tune into that 171 to 189 thing. So I have to run her at 233 speed. That's not that crazy, okay? When you're trying to get one champion at 233 and build their, not crazy defense, again, there's nothing crazy going on. I try to get some crit rate so that they're hitting a little crit damage. Pretty weak builds. It's still in very basic gear. Even though I do have better gear on this account, they're still in very basic gear because they perform. So I have one at 233 speed. Between like 231, 237, you can get somebody going at a 4-to-3 ratio to where right before the stun, she can take 2 extra turns. The way it staggers, she'll eventually, after the first round, or the first couple of rounds against the clan boss, she'll start putting it up and getting an extra turn, but she'll put up her block debuffs and then take an extra turn. But as long as it's always up for that stun, I do pretty well. Also, I have Frozen Banshee. And because she puts out poisons, she'll put out extra poisons because of counterattacker, like crazy. But at 229, and this is, you can play with this a little bit lower works, I believe, but 229 works for me to get her going for 3, and that just basically lets her lay more poisons, do more damage. I could have easily had left her alone because I do have a counterattacker, and maybe did this for Longbeard so that I got more ally attacks, and that might actually play out better. But this team does well. So going 4-to-3 as a ratio with 1 or 2 of your champions. If you just do 1, stick with the 233. If you want to add another one, it needs to be about 229, maybe 227 to 229. Because as you change speeds and as you change turn order, the whole team changes. Your tune goes away. But having 1 or 2 people go at 4-to-3 who have special moves that are on 4-turn cooldowns. Let's say you had Brogni, and let's say that my books had landed better, and one of these cooldowns were hit, and I was still on a 4-turn cooldown. I could actually still use him by going 4-to-3 as if he were booked out. It can be really, really amazing putting one character going 4-to-3 or 2. So let's just kind of watch what they do, how it works. Because in a regular speed tune, no way could Sepulchre Sentinel can continuously keep us from taking a stun. When you go to the clan boss, this will work on Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare, but in different ways. So on Nightmare, because we're slower than the clan boss, we don't want to do this on auto. It is an auto team, but you want to kind of set it up. The whole first round is almost a waste. We're just going to A1. We're going to save her move until we get right before the stun. Frozen Banshee is going to get started right away, putting up poison sensitivity because she's going to start really cycling. Everybody else just use their favorite moves. One thing that I'm going to do is save my defense and down and weaken until I actually start getting my counterattacks in. But so I'm not going to use counterattack here. We lost the first turn. I want to wait till the first AoE. We're going to A1 here. And if you just think it through like this, everything's fine. So we're still waiting for that stun. We're going to A1 again, start laying some more poisons. So we're on turn 2. Okay, so we're about to take the stun. We can go ahead and throw Weaken out. We're going to save this for the next round. So I'm going to A1. After we take this stun, it's kind of like because of the 172 to 177, we're really starting everything after round 3. So the stun's about to hit. We can go ahead and make sure nobody takes the stun. And A1 here. And honestly, we can hit auto from this point. We could already hit auto because what's going to happen now, now we block the stun. Everybody should be in tune and sync. Rosin will now use his move that decreases defense and weaken. And Skull Crusher will put up counterattack. And Frozen Banshee will get a second turn here. So we've already got we've got our counterattack right where we want it. We have increased defense during that first AoE. Frozen Banshee gets to throw extra poisons out. And then she starts going twice on, I believe, this round, or is it the second round? Next round. And Sepulchre Sentinel, who has a 4-turn cooldown, will now begin to block the stun before the stun every round. She's going to go twice on this turn. Right before the clan boss, she throws it up. Then we take the stun. Absolutely beautiful. We'll never get stunned with this team. This isn't a powerhouse team. They're not built that well, but they'll do well. They'll perform well because two of them are going at a 4-to-3 ratio while everybody else is really slow tuned. Here shortly. Let's speed this up. We see what's going to happen. We'll get to the end and then I'll just skip to the end and then we'll look at some other stuff. So that's a good hit. An easy 3-key, right? So you can definitely get your chest every day. So a 4-3 ratio could change things in ways that you didn't think were possible. But you don't want to mess around when you're doing a 4-3 ratio with 1 or 2 heroes that need to go that extra turn so that their 4-turn cooldown fits in consistently. Things like Ninja. There's a lot of hype around Ninja. This is the only account that I haven't just rushed him up. On my smaller one, I took him up. On my bigger one, I took him up. And no regrets. He's an amazing champ. And on my big account, I have now 1-keyed Ultra Nightmare because of Ninja. But he's very tricky, especially in a regular tuned team like this. So even though he puts out amazing damage, his A1 consistently is going to speed him up. And it is going to throw off your tune in most cases. When you have like this right here gives him 15%. It fills his turn meter by 15% when used against a boss. Really hard to keep that in check on a regular tune. Pretty much anything can be done in this game, but the amount of frustration he can cause. Now, if you have the right unkillable team, I've showed a lot of different compositions that I've done for other people and my own on the Batman unkillable team. Well, there's something kind of special about that. One of your DPSers, the slow DPS, goes first every turn cycle. Well, when he goes first, he's got a full bar of turn meter. So if he uses an A1, it absolutely doesn't matter. So you can fit him into that spot. And then when you get your second turn, because that team's so fast, everyone goes twice every turn for the clan boss. Well, the 15% is not enough if this goes off to change his tune. He'll still stay in cycle because he'll come back around as the first champion again on the next turn. So he can be used on some of speed tunes without much trouble, but he does cause other issues. On my team, it's tricky because you want to bring defense down and decrease. He's not very consistent at putting decreased defense. I've tried it. He's really not very consistent at doing it. So you kind of still want somebody that brings that. And on the team that I use on my other account, I use Anax. The only other good option I have that can do big damage is Fane. Anax is amazing. So is Fane. But both of them heal up. So you have to keep them so low of health that they actually, with full health, can still be your tank. So it's very, very tricky. Now, if you had a Draco, the other day I helped a clanmate with a team. We made an unkillable team. And if we had the gear, it would have been great because Draco can be a consistent tank. Because he doesn't heal himself up. And the problem with Ninja is he makes himself go invisible with when he does Hellburn. He puts up a perfect veil and he can't be a stun target. Your DPS always has to be a stun target. So he can cause issues, but he's definitely workable. If you've got a team where he's always first in your turn order, then it's no problem. Him gaining turn meter doesn't matter. He's already at full turn meter and taking his turn right off the bat anyways. So keep that in mind. If he is absolutely the first to go in your turn meter, then you can pull him off. So on a regular speed tune team, if you had him to where after the first cycle he was always your first move, you could use him. Just keep that in mind. He can get frustrating to fit in. I wanted to mention him because he is good. He is good. He is definitely the reason that I can now 1-key Ultra Nightmare with the same team that I've been showing off all this time. Him and Anax. And Anax has got a long ways to go on being stronger. His crit rate is super low. So that team even has room to grow. But, the goal is really to get that 2 key and then try to turn it into a 1 key. Because once you can 2 key Ultra Nightmare, the rest is cake. You can easily go kill Nightmare, Brutal. But if you don't have that unkillable team, 4-3 ratio, you can pick the hero that you didn't think was ever going to stay in sync because of a 4-turn cooldown and make them work for you, or just get more out of a DPSer or an ally attacker. Get more ally attacks by consistently speeding them, letting them go twice on one of the rounds every time you go through a cycle. Just something that could help you out. I wanted to mention it because there's a lot of people out there that don't have that unkillable team, including me. And there's still a way to beat Ultra Nightmare and still have a key left over to go and beat Brutal or Nightmare wherever you want to go. So hope it helps. Hopefully everyone's working on their clan boss team. Even if you don't have an unkillable, there are ways to get through Ultra Nightmare. Until next time, guys, enjoy the grind.